Hello and welcome to the Complete Agent Podcast, where each week we aim to educate and entertain our industry. I'm James Kendall, and as ever, I'm joined by Ian Story and David Warburton. Lads, how's your week been?
Go on, Ian.
Oh, thanks.
Tell us about your finger.
Oh, I think I've broken my finger this morning, and those who are watching the pod can see my finger's got a weird shape.
How have you done that?
Hashtag pray for Ian, one like, one prayer.
How have you
Can't
done
tell
it?
you how I did it. It's too explicit. Good week. Yeah, busy. Things are busy. So we've a little rundown. I'll start with the positive and then with the negative. So we've sold one at 700. That's the marketing price. One at 645, which is 20 grand over marketing price. They've also given us one to sell at $1 million. Another one listed at 750. They're buying one offers at 1.15. Then another 3 listings, and Phil's put a really nice barn conversion on as well. So things are really, really busy. We've had 2 fall. So we had one at 400. We had a chain where we had 2 in the chain, one at 400, one at 720. So that was 22 grand in fees total fall through this week, which is a little bit of a dent in the pipeline. And then another one that's looking like it might fall through that is also linked at 1.2, and they're buying one at 750. So, usual mix of estate agency positives and negatives, chaps.
Good. Good week for me. I've actually picked up 5 new instructions in the last week, which is nice. And I put a new house on the market on Monday, which is a nice one. And it's like we've said before, Ian, you've said the gold is in the $500,000 to $1 million. I totally agree with you. This one's a $500,000 pounder. It's a 2% fee, and it's just a great house that'll fly off. And it was really, I really enjoyed doing that. But picked up 3 new builds. And the person that's building them, I'm going to be selling his house as well. So the combined value of those is like £4 million, which is beautiful. That's a really good one. And then I went to a valuation last week, and I think I'd mentioned it on the previous pod. I think it was last week's actually, where I'd said they'd received my letter, and we went through some detail. And the type of detail that we went into was stuff that they'd just not been talking about at all with their agent. He is probably one of the most motivated vendors I've ever met. The stuff that he was saying to me on the phone was things like, I just need to know what the value is. It's not selling, and I'm not hearing from my agent. They've not told me whether it's overpriced, whether it needs a price review. I don't know whether my marketing's good against the competition. It looks okay, that sort of thing. I just need someone to tell me. So I went round thinking, if I'm honest, I was the only one going. I think I said confidently last week that it's a shoo-in. I'm going to this one, and we've already had such a great conversation that pretty much a shoo-in. And I went to it. The valuation went incredibly well, and I got on with him really well. And at the end, he said, right, okay, we'll be in touch. We've got somebody coming after you. And did the usual thing where I said, okay, do you mind if I ask who you've got coming? And he said, well, we've got, and I won't list them all, but he listed 6 agents. Wow. Right. So I was like, gosh, okay, that's a lot. And he said, yeah, I know, you're number 5, number 6 is coming after you. I said, wow, right, okay. And I'd gone in, obviously, at my usual fee. And then anyway, I was driving home, and he rang me in the car, and he just said, you've got the gig. I said, brilliant. I said, are you not going to take your time to go through it all? So that's happened quite quick. And he said, no, we've just got a really good vibe with you, and let's just do it. So that was a really nice one to get as well. That's at 700,000. It's really saleable. So overall, it's been a good week. Like you, there's a couple of shaky chains at the moment. Things are just taking a bit too long, as they always do in conveyancing land. So we're working hard to keep a few chains together, in all honesty. But apart from that, I have to say it's been quite positive, and it remains to be that way for the moment, which is nice.
We've got a few deals on the board this month as well, which is nice. We had a little bit of a slower end to January. January was okay, but we started February really, really well. And I think we're on, I want to say about 7 or 8 deals so far,
Nice.
Which, to be honest, I like to try and do anywhere between 8 and 12 a month. Like it's kind of my sweet spot for most months. Given, what we charge, our average fees, that puts us nicely somewhere between 60 and 100K generally gross. Depending obviously the level of what we sell. A couple of nice chain builds as well, two chains together. A couple actually that are really nice. A couple of instructions. Again, instructions have been a little bit light in terms of, we've signed them up, but we haven't brought them live just because of, it's half term for the private schools this week. It's half term next week for all of the state schools. And then we've obviously got the spring budget coming up on the 6th. So I've said to a lot of people, and our photographer's quite busy at the moment getting everything ready. So my advice to a lot of the people has been, let's not launch this week, because I've got some good stuff ready to press the button on. But I've said to clients, look, let's wait until after half term. And if you can wait a touch longer, let's do just after the spring budget, depending on the house. Like the higher end stuff, we're just going to launch after half term, because I don't think the spring budget's really going to affect the high end. But that kind of mid-range stock, I do think there might be a couple of nice little bits in the spring budget that could definitely help. So we've kind of held off there because they're not in a huge hurry. And I think they really appreciated that. So yeah, all round, a few challenges in the business in the last couple of weeks, but, all moving forward. But now pretty good, pretty positive, and ready to go on holiday.
I think you just picked up on something there, James, and it's all about just giving best advice. One of the rules I've always had in my office, without having sort of values everywhere, core values everywhere, which is probably something I need to be stronger on, to be fair. But everybody knows we have two major rules, which is always give best advice, regardless of whether it's right for the business. It's all about the client at the end of the day. And I think if you give it, it'll come back in spades. But just thought what you said there about the half-term thing, I think a lot of people would have been itching to launch regardless, but it's good that I think you've taken that time to sort of say, look, if you launch now in the next couple of weeks at half-term, it might not be the best strategy for you. That first 2 weeks of marketing is always really important, as we know. It's when it's landing in everybody's back pockets in the phones these days, when they're actively looking. So if they miss that 2 weeks, it could actually put you on the back foot, Mr. Vendor. So I think that's great. And then there's another thing as well, and Ian, I think you alluded to it the other week, but having market-ready properties. I've been to so many valuations since the turn of the year, and I've got a lot of slow burners, people just wanting to know. Obviously, as you're sending letters out, people aren't always ready, and you just need to accept, as you said, James, a bit of compound interest, that you're going to go out there and you're just building up your client bank and nurturing them. But I've got 3 market-ready properties that I think are good to have, even though I know that they're not ready to market just yet, they are ready to go. So when they do ring up and say, right, I found the property that I really want, it's just clicks of buttons rather than trying to get them in the diary. We can get them live quite quick. So I think that's another good strategy. Try and get your market ready properties. If people aren't ready, offer that service.
Can I just say 2 things before we launch as well today? Sorry, Dave, I didn't realise you were going to carry on talking then. But I was going to say 2 things before we launch. First thing is we've had quite a few messages, and I just thought it'd be quite good to address it at the start of the podcast. Like, what is the complete agent paid? People have asked us, what is the paid version of the complete agent? And if anyone's listening to this and wants help, wants to reach out, basically our website is now live, thecompleteagent.co.uk, and it would detail everything that we offer. We start as an introductory price of $497 plus VAT a month, and it will tell you everything that we do. Obviously, we do this podcast every week because we want to educate and entertain the industry, and we're getting a lot of messages from people saying that they're enjoying it, but they're also asking, what is the paid element? And just to kind of briefly go over it, we've got a private WhatsApp group, we've got direct mail all ready to go, we've got social media content. We're going to give you all of the tools to basically springboard you into the mid to high end market, and as well as support in agency from all of us 3 in a WhatsApp group directly. So just wanted to get that out there. And also, just Dave, what you were talking about, those 2 core values, I've just been listening to, and again, not another week goes by without plucking old Gatesy. I was listening to his podcast with Professor Damien Hughes, and he said something really interesting that it just reminded me when you said that. In the relationship, you're doing 2 things. You're either building trust or eroding trust, no matter what you do. And I just that when you said that resonated. So there we go. So yeah, do you want to dump in? Do you want to jump in?
I think, well, watching this, Ian's walked away from his desk again. So that might be something that he's doing.
Sorry,
right
mate.
now,
We interrupted something.
Oh, yeah. Right, okay. Sorry, what were we going to say, JK?
I was going to say, do you want to jump in? I said, do you want to dump in? I might cut that bit out, but do you want to jump in and introduce what we're going to be talking about this week?
Yeah, so obviously we've decided to do a bit of a mini series over the next few weeks. We have, and this is sort of going from start to finish, about how to sort of set your agency up for success, I guess. If you're wanting to achieve those higher fees, whether you are high volume or a lower volume. So just for clarity on that, I'll not dwell on it too much, but I think I am very much lower volume, higher fee. I much prefer it that way. And I think by default, someone like Ian Story has probably become more a bit of both, because he is the attraction agent in his town now. And there'll be a lot of you listening out there that are the same. I suppose it's just what you are attracting and whether you want to improve that. And this is what this mini series is all about. So 2 weeks ago, we talked about how you look, going back to the drawing board. When you look at your website, when you look at your boards, etc., what are people seeing and what would they associate you with? So that's well worth a listen if you've not done that. Last week, we talked about lead generation tactics. James made a great point saying that there's how did you put it? When people talk about how they just get referrals all the time. It's a badge of honor, you said. Yeah, it's a badge of honor, which is great. Obviously, referrals are probably the best source of business, aren't they? They're more likely to convert quicker. But it's not a strategy, is it? It's not a business strategy, and you need a lead generation strategy. So we talked about what we do in terms of direct mail, bit of social media content, building your database of clients and keeping in touch with them. That was last week. So this week, we're going to get into the actual valuation process. So we're going to assume that you've done the sort of audit on your own business. We're going to assume now that you've got a bit of a lead gen strategy in place, and now the phone is ringing. So what happens when you book a valuation? So I'll throw back to you because I've just spoke there for a good minute, JK. How does it look at your end? Because I think that you've got to look at it at everything. It's not just turning up for the valuation. One of the first impressions that the client will get is when you pick up the phone and say, "Good morning, welcome to James Kendall Estate Agents." Now, if that process is crap and they're not getting a good experience immediately, then you're on the back foot when you get through the door. And it's debatable whether you'll get through the door. They might end up cancelling. So that process has got to be spot on. What happens at your end?
So we do actually do a lot of training on this, and we're consistent with it. And one of the things I would advise anyone do is if you've got a number that people don't associate with your business, do some market research on your competitors and see how they answer the phone, because that's been really powerful for me in our training and seeing what other people do and seeing what good and what not so good looks like. So yeah, when someone rings us, and again, I'm hot on this. I literally, the guys will hear me in the office going, as soon as they know, as soon as they put down the phone, if they take a valuation call, it's always right. Where did they hear of us? What's this? What's that? What's that? So they're there and they know that they've got everything written down, because people do what you inspect, not what you expect. Anyway, what does it look like? They answer the phone. Good afternoon, James Kendall Estate Agents. James speaking. How can I help you? Someone says, "Hello, I'd like to book a valuation." I always like to make sure the guys have got the tabs loaded up on their computer. So they've always got Rightmove Plus open, and they've always got Street Insights open as well. So when the valuation call comes in, I say, "Oh, brilliant. Can we just take the house number and postcode, or house number or name and postcode?" And then that literally goes straight into Rightmove Plus while they're talking to them, and then Street Insights while they're talking. So you've got to be quite good on the phone and computer at the same time. But it's good then, because if there's ever a record of it on Rightmove Plus, bosh, the house comes straight up, and you'll know whether it's been on the market before, who you're talking to. And also with Street Insights, when you look at that and it comes up on the screen, you'll have a good idea about, the title plan, because that obviously is on their ordnance survey, what they paid for it, square footage if they had an EPC done, that kind of thing. So while that's all happening in the background, we're asking them the question, things like, "Oh, brilliant. And just before we go into everything, get that booked in, may I ask what made you call James Kendall Estate Agents today?" And a lot of the time people will say, "We got one of your letters, seen you on social media, recommended by a friend." Quite often at the higher end, it's, we've been receiving your letters, and we wanted to get you out. And then we ask questions about the house, how long have you lived there? what changes have you made since you've been there? Like, and in the meantime, whilst they're adding those kind of, it's all a bit convoluted how I've said it's not exactly the exact process, but while we're talking to them and they're talking about their house, we're looking it up on Street Insights or Rightmove Plus. So, for example, if they live there, a lot of people we speak to actually, and I think I alluded to this the other week, are sometimes people that bought 2 years ago in 2021 and moved because of XYZ and have now got to move back for another reason or whatever. So quite often there's details on there. If there isn't, and you're speaking to people that have been there for 30, 40 years, it's really crucial to ask, in my opinion, again, I'll be prepared to be challenged on this, if they've been there 30, 40 years, do you mind me asking what you paid for it 30, 40 years ago? I bet it wasn't XYZ. And they might say, oh, why do you need that information? So, well, obviously you're not on land registry. It's handy to know so that we can extrapolate the price based on market trends and look at where that might be in today's market with inflation, etc. Sometimes people will give you it, sometimes they won't. But if it's a house that's been lived in for, pre-91, getting that original price paid allowed you to go back on like nationwide HPI and look at where the market's increased in those times. And it will give you a base figure to work from, because at least then before you even go out and start doing comps and looking at pounds per square foot, it will give you a good idea of where you're at. And then, overall round the call off, very friendly, talk about what they're doing, what made them call us today, have they seen something, establishing motivation. And then I think it's always crucial to make sure that you never book the appointment within 24 hours, unless they say, look, we've seen a house, we need someone ASAP. And in which case, you have to move bits around your diary, but you always want that perception of, if you can get a decorator around your house or a builder around your house to start building in 24 hours, how good are they? So it's all about perception from the beginning. When the phone, if it's not somebody, not the valuer taking the call or the agent that will be dealing with them taking the call, whoever in the office is taking that call, passed on to the valuer. The valuer then calls and then continues that conversation, introduces himself, sends a text on their mobile, their personal mobile or their business mobile as it is. And then it's confirmed with an email, and that's it pretty much. I talked a lot.
Great. A lot of detail there, to be fair. I think, obviously, from my point of view, we're thinking about, I rarely book the valuation. So if it's coming into the office, I just have some key things that I want the guys to do. So we're fortunate, like you, James, we've got Street Insights that builds into the system, the street system. So it gives them the information. So what I do like is that Pauline and Kate, when they book a valuation, I've already got quite a bit of info. And it's nice that they can relay that to me as well. So if people are listening and they haven't got that type of system and you're interested in how that feeds into like the likes of Street, or you've not got Street and you're on a different CRM, the likes of Street Insights, which is free, it can be free, and Home Search have different, they have some great metrics and great data that'll show the house, and it'll just give you what you call them, negotiators, client executives, whatever you've got at the front end of your offices. It gives them that little bit of extra information and makes them sound more knowledgeable to the client. But I basically want them to get into the rapport more than the detail, I think. So I like the idea that the client will then say the person on the other end of the phone was brilliant, really, really helpful, etc. So obviously we want to know the number of bedrooms, things like that. But I asked them to do a walkthrough of the property on the phone with them. So tell me about your property. So don't say how many bedrooms, how many reception rooms, how many bathrooms. It's boring.
Tell me about your home. We said tell me more about your home.
Exactly. So it's more tell me about your home. Walk me through it from the front door, and then obviously you risk them saying, well, it's got 4 radiators in that room, a boiler, and stuff like that. But you kind of it's building rapport.
Kitchen 10 years ago.
This is the hall. Exactly. This is the hallway.
Yeah, exactly. But you want them to build rapport so that if they do pick up on something, like they say, yeah, we've just had a kitchen fitted, whoever's booking it might say, all right, great. What sort of kitchen did you go for? The style, all that sort of stuff. Not only is it good information for the valuer to have, or whoever's going to value in to have, but it like I say, you're just building that rapport. You're showing that you care, and it's not just a quick process where you're asking numbers of bedrooms and things like that. You're building personality, aren't you? Obviously, we need to know some of the important information. Have you had any valuations yet? Have you started looking timescales?
Quick question there, chaps, before you carry on. Do you both always ask if they've got any other valuations booked?
Yes.
Not always. I don't always ask.
I request that we know that sort of stuff. But like you say, I suppose to be fair to them, it depends how the conversation goes. But we have some basic things that we'll just ask.
The only reason I don't ask is because part of me thinks, well, if we're the only person they've called out,
you don't want to give them the idea of inviting other people.
You don't have other valuations.
Yeah.
Like, and then you start inviting other people to come.
Yeah, that's what I think.
I think sometimes though, I just want to know the motivation. So, have you had your property valued recently? So if they're saying no, I've not, then they could.
One thing that we always ask. Well, I hope we always ask. We certainly try and always ask it because we're so busy. We say to people, "What's your timescale for putting the house on the market?"
Yeah.
And then they go, "Oh, I'm not selling yet," or they go, "Well, I found somewhere, so I need to," So that helps with the motivation question.
Yeah, exactly. And touching on something that you said the other week, Ian, I can't remember which podcast it was, but we touched on selling only the types of properties that you want. And one useful thing with Street Insights and the staff using it is that if, in the politest possible way, if it looks like a property that you perhaps don't want, in the nicest possible way, like I say, when we're talking about the type of brand and the type of house you want to attract, it's perhaps easier for them to say, I'm going to have to come back to you about the diaries, Can I take your number and call you back? And then...
So I agree with that completely. Just to jump in there, we switched from home search to Street because Street is better for prospecting, postcards, that sort of stuff. But the interface on Street isn't as good as on Street Insights, isn't as good as it is on home search. So on home search, you put in the address, it shows you the exact property and the exact title plan immediately.
Yeah.
Street Insights is crap for that. It's nowhere near as good as home search, but it is much better for the prospecting side. So it's a tricky one really. But yeah, for certainly putting it into a system that shows you the property is while you're on the phone to them is important for lots of different reasons that you've both just outlined.
Yeah, I think it's just very, very useful to have that. And then the final thing for us, when we book the valuation, we try and avoid asking them when they want the valuation. We kind of try and dictate what is available in our diary. I think there's you can read as much into it as you like, but there might be that psychological element where if you're sort of saying, when do you want it? And they go, well, I want it Friday at 4 p.m. You go, yeah, no problem at all. You kind of want it, you want to sound like you are busy, don't you?
Yeah.
That we have, so it's more like, yeah, no problem. Well, David's available Tuesday at 4, Thursday at 6, and Friday at 2. Which one's best for you, kind of thing. And if none of those work, obviously you can try and work around it. You obviously want to get the client in as best you can, but I think it's better to dictate. And also something that I'm really poor with at the moment, but you need structure in your diary. Everybody needs structure in the diary, but it's hard, obviously, in estate agency land. JK, you've got your hand up like a 12-year-old. Come on. What do you want?
I thought that was what we were doing now. But anyway, I was just going to say in there, you kind of alluded to it, but just wanted to double down on it. It's important that your team control the call because I think that sets the tone for the relationship in the beginning. And also, again, just circling back to, ring your competitors and see how they answer the phone, because it was really eye-opening for my team. And I said, look, this is why we do what we do. When we rang 2 or 3 others, and we asked questions like, we wanted to book valuation, blah blah blah, and they were just going, right, okay, and how many bedrooms is it, and okay, and when do you want us to do it, and it was like, right, okay, and at the end I said, right, because it was a really poor call, I was like, ask them what their percentage rate is. And we asked what the percentage rate, and they went, well, it's normally 1%, but normally they negotiate. So I was like, right, okay. So it's not 1% then, is it? It's like whatever you can get away with charging. So that's really useful info. So we've got anything else to add on that part there, or should we jump into the next part?
No, let's move on with that. I think you just need
hang on.
to
I've got loads to add.
Good God, no.
I've got absolutely loads to add. So when someone calls to book a valuation, I mean, when I say valuation, I can hear Perry Power punching me in the face from a distance because it's not a valuation. but we all call it Val, don't we? So
I've got an argument on that.
When someone calls to book a selling advice meeting or a market appraisal, we always answer the phone by saying thank you. That's a tip I picked up from Tom Panos, I think. So we don't say good afternoon, good morning. We say thank you for calling Stories. Eleanor speaking, how can I help? When they say they want to book an evaluation, we say who recommended us. So we don't say where did you find us. We only always say who recommended us. Even if no one did, it tells them that we get recommended all the time. So we always say who recommended us. And then just to touch lightly on what you've said, we always try and find out personal details as much as we do details about the home. So if they mention the name of the kids, name of the dog, where they're going on holiday, we had one recently where the 60th birthday was coming up a week on Saturday, so we sent her a birthday card, things like that. We always get those sort of personal details as much as we do about the home. I was about to start talking then about what we do before we get to the house. Do you want me to do that now? Or yeah? So
in fact, depends. What we'd said was we'll look at how are you monitoring how the valuations are booked. I think just to summarise that's really important. Speak
where
to
they're
your
coming
team.
from.
Yeah, what are they saying? Where are they coming from? Are you recording all that data? I would, as a starter, just write down that process. And if in your head you haven't actually got one, if you can't say that is our process, you need to go and write one and get the staff that are picking up the phone more often than not uniformed, asking the same sorts of questions and building that rapport every time. That's all I would say on that. It's just so we don't dwell on it too much, guys. I know we've got time and there's a lot sort of in this that I think will add value. But yeah, I suppose the next step of that, Ian, if you want to start then, was the valuation's now been booked. What is your next process? So you're going to go to the valuation. I guess it's prep, isn't it?
Well, the first step for us when we book a valuation is we send out a PLP. We call it a PLP, pre-list pack. The guys all call it a PLP. In fact, one step before that, so they book it into the diary. Obviously, the client gets an email confirmation. Then whoever's booked it into the diary from the team emails me or Phil to tell us it's booked so that we can call them to say thank you. Mm-hmm. So the team will speak to them. Then an email confirmation goes out. The team email me or Phil to tell us. And then me and Phil can call. But we try not to call immediately. We try and call 1 or 2 days later because it's just another touch point. And the client is always so unbelievably grateful when you do that. You ring and you say, hi, it's Ian Story. Just call in and say, thank you for booking into my diary. They go, oh, thanks very much. And we say, oh, no problem. Looking forward to seeing you a week on Wednesday. That was all it was. This is my number. See you then. They can't believe you've called just to do that. Then the team send out a PLP, pre-list pack. So in the pre-list pack, we put a copy of our marketing plan, a couple of example lifestyle brochures, and we also send out a list of clients' names and telephone numbers to all new clients. So we have a sheet with all the property, with about 15 houses on that we've sold. And underneath each property is the name and telephone number of the client, obviously pre-approved by the client that we can do this. And we send out telephone numbers of all past clients. Most people never call, but of course it shows that, I mean, I don't know any other agents near us that do that. So we send out all those clients.
I said, who's going to, the thing is, it's one thing, them saying they're going to do it, but again, it's like all things. Someone will listen to this today and go, "That's a brilliant idea." Never use it,
and never use it. So that's really powerful with people. So in the pre-list pack, we've got an example brochure, covering letter, copy of the marketing plan, and client details, and a business card. And then we try and hand deliver that PLP on the same day that we book the val. Mm-hmm. So worst case, they put it out in the post. But I say to them, and the guys are really good, to be fair, given how busy they are. They try and hand deliver it on the way home. Brilliant. So that works really well. So they knock on the door and they say, hi, it's Vicky from Stories. Oh, you're not coming. Ian's not coming till the week on Wednesday. And we say, well, no, we just want to give you a bit of information ahead of our meeting for you to peruse. And that's another great touch point. And that happens all as part of the booking process. So we've not even got to the prep stage yet.
That's great. That's 2% mindset, isn't it?
Yeah. And no other agent can touch it because they're not consistent enough. They don't implement.
And they can't be bothered.
No, it is really strong, mate. And that's why
that's something I need to do as well. Pre-list pack. I don't do that myself.
They're great.
Yeah, it is. It's really strong, that, and I think as well, it saves a lot of the time on the actual val when people, if they've taken the time to have a look through your selling plan, for example, or example of your videos and your brochure, you can you can almost skirt over that bit or just add and answer questions, can't you? So for me, that is it's an amazing thing that you do. And
just to confirm, we don't skirt over the plan when we're with them. We read it out in detail. So
yeah,
a lot of them read it. A lot of them say they've read it, and I'm sure that a lot of them do. But the power of you looking them in the eyes, talking them through it over the dining table, is far, far greater than them just reading the plan themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if they've had it, though, my point is, I suppose, if they've had it, they'll have had a lot of time to digest it before the meeting, so it's not new to them.
No.
And I think it's you'll just then be adding clarity on the day, if that makes sense.
And there's one other thing that we're just about to start putting into the pre-list pack. Shout out to Simon Gates again. Because this is where we've got the data from. But this is another idea I got from Tom Panos, which is called the competitor destroyer. That's what Tom Panos calls it. That's not what we call it, obviously, to the client, but it is called the competitor destroyer. We call it the selecting an estate agent questionnaire.
Yeah.
And it's 2 sides of A4 with about 10 questions on it. And the questions are, what do you get as an average marketing price? What's your average fall through rate? How many properties do you reduce on average? What's your strategy for stopping the marketing from going stagnant? Do you produce a presenter-led video tour? So we ask, we're starting to send this out as a questionnaire for them to fill out when they're with other agents interviewing them. Obviously, it's all geared towards what we do. Phil and I are going to go armed with the answers to those questions so we can answer them with the client. But the idea is that they will be prompted as to what they should be asking the other agents. And obviously, fee isn't on there. So I think that's going to be quite powerful as well.
Great.
Cool. Next bit, or are we happy to move on?
Yeah, good. So I think the next bit, obviously, is the actual preparation of the valuation, isn't it? So you're now going to turn up on the day, and what are you taking with you? How much detail do you actually go into? I mean, I'm very data driven. I do love my stats, and I like to try and relate it to what the property market's doing, obviously, and how that affects the client themselves. One thing I'm big on, obviously, especially when you're valuing higher end homes, it's not as straightforward as valuing a 3-bed semi, obviously. So I'm big on talking about the valuation being very subjective.
Yeah.
And if you've got the right data available to you, then it's quite easy to demonstrate why and take the emphasis off the valuation and more on the way you market. So, for example, if I'm going out to a home, a bit Perry Power like. So the only disagreement I would have about the advice meeting thing, and I do agree with it entirely, it's not a valuation, it is an advice meeting. The only thing I think from an advertising point of view, universally, customers know the word valuation.
Yeah.
So for me, it's more of an educating tool. When you get into the valuation, when you get there, you're more educating them that you are not a valuer. So estate agents are not valuers, and it's the first thing that I say, because what do the majority of people think about? They think about, what is the value of my home and how much is it going to cost to sell me? Everything else in between is the educational, subjective part that you've got to get across, and it's your ability to demonstrate that. So data is a great way of doing it. So the first thing I say to people is exactly what Perry Power was talking about, and he's right. I say, look, this is not a valuation. I'm not a valuer. If you want a more accurate valuation, you need to speak to a RICS chartered surveyor. For me, I'm a marketeer. That's what estate agents are. The valuation is subjective. It's worth what someone's prepared to pay. So don't just go with the agent that's going to give you the highest number. Go with the agent that demonstrates they can get you the best price by way of their marketing. What we're going to do today is go through the stuff that you cannot argue with, the statistical data. I'm going to talk to you about pound per square foot. I'm going to talk to you about what the market's been doing over the last 12 months. At the moment, I always demonstrate what happened through COVID and show the trends of what's happening now so that they can see how the price has jumped. And most circumstances, it's starting to come down a little bit. But you can't argue with the data, the most up-to-date data. So if I'm telling you that detached homes are selling for £300 per square foot, it's factual. That's what detached homes are selling for. The rest of it is subjective. So if we arrive at a number together by analysing all the pound per square foot data and looking at recent sales, obviously, things like that, the rest of it is subjective. So if I'm saying that the data tells me that your house is worth £1 million, and you want 1.1 because you've got an incredible kitchen and 5 new bathrooms, blah, 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 that's the subjective part. Somebody will probably pay that for the finish. And it works the other way as well. If you go into a barn conversion or a barn rather that's a bit dilapidated, a bit old and needs work, it might go the other way. So on paper, the pound per square foot might tell you, or the comparable data might tell you that it's worth $1 million. But if it needs 5 new bathrooms and a new kitchen, then somebody might only pay 900. But my job is to make your house look the best it possibly can do, expose it in all the right areas, and then communicate with you as to how the market's performing while we're on there. And once we get somebody on the hook, my ability then to negotiate the best possible price is absolutely key. Sorry, to get the best possible price is key. And I need to demonstrate that to the client. So there's obviously stuff that I would do in that respect. So I think it's really important to present the data. Obviously, when you're going to big properties with lots of acreage and things like that, it becomes even more subjective, and you do need to get into what else is sold. If it's agricultural, there's usually a guide as to how much it might be worth per acre, things like that.
Which is rubbish, by the way.
Sorry?
Which is complete rubbish, by the way.
What is the...
So the amount of times, so I again, really quick story, it'll take 20 seconds. I valued a place once and it was on 5 acres, and another agent went in and said, oh, well, I went on Google and Savills say that agricultural land in this area is worth £10,000 an acre. So I value it at 780. And I was like, that's not right. So anyway, when I went in there, we actually sold it for 990 in the end.
Yeah, but I guess that's the subjective part, isn't it? So that's what I mean. You know, I went to one recently.
I think the closer you get to the house, again, I don't want this to be about acreage, but I think the closer you get to the home, and also the other thing as well is what potential does the land have as well? There are other things, but yeah. Without going too deep, sorry, I'll shut up.
It's fine, but you're absolutely right. It's the same sort of thing. 10,000 per acre, or is it? It could be 50,000 an acre. It depends what the land is going to be used for. I went to one recently with 25 acres. It's greenbelt land. So at the moment, it's just agricultural. You can't do anything with it. But if that was to get planning permission in the future, it transforms the value of that land entirely. So that is the subjective part. And then I guess it's just going through how else you present, lads. But I use a lot of data. I won't talk fully about it now, but like I say, I always take a land registry house price index for the area that I'm looking at. I'm a big fan of Data Loft because you can get right into the postcode data there. And again, I understand at the higher end when you've got more rural properties and they're stood on their own in the middle of a field, it's a little bit different. So you have to do different stuff. I understand that. But more often than not, particularly like you say, like in my area where you're at sort of 500,000 up to maybe 1.2, there's quite a lot of data available. And yeah, I just like to go into it in as much detail as I can in terms of the data. I also like a best price guide. I've heard arguments in other areas where people will say there's nothing different about best price guide, but I go back to it's probably got the best data.
It's how you use it as well.
Exactly. Exactly that. It's how you use it. So just because 3 other agents have gone in and have also used the best price guide doesn't mean that the information that they've used is the same as what you have, and it's how you articulate it as well.
That's right.
But it's got the best data. Rightmove lists pretty much every single house that's for sale in the country. Why wouldn't you use that? I get that you want to try and be different, but you are the person that's going to make the valuation different. It's how you present that's going to be different. So
Can I just say as well on Best Price Guide as well, one of the things I like to do on Best Price Guide is look at all the what the house sold for, look at the pound per square foot, look at what it's got and its features, and make notes on each one that I bring on the Best Price Guide.
I do that.
So then when you're there, it's not just, because a lot of other agents I've found from speaking to clients and potential sellers, like you say, Dave, to just bring the Best Price Guide and go, well, that's sold at 1.4 and this sold at 1.25. So it might be about 1.3, but there's no like pound per square foot, key features, context, etc. But yeah.
What I would say as well, by the way, is if you going back to what I said before, so if you're going out to a client, they want to know what their house is worth and probably what you're going to charge a lot of the time. That obviously they're going to be interested in how you're going to do it. Of course they are. But those are the two things that, if we're honest, that everybody wants to know. If you make it too much about the value of the home, then you'll probably lose the chance to demonstrate how you're going to add the value.
I always talk about the valuation element at the end.
That's interesting. Okay.
So because it's step one on our marketing plan, the marketing price. So I sort of touch on, I like to try and get it on a right move price point and the reasons for that. And then I just say to them, I'll come back to that, because I know that if you start talking about the valuation at the start and you get it wrong or it's too low, they're not really listening to the rest of the plan. Then they're not really taking it in properly. So I just say I'll come back to that element. So I'll talk through how we're going to do it, because I know it's better than everyone else and different. And then I come back to that either at the end of the meeting or come back to them the next day if it's a super complicated one.
Absolutely. I think I've either way, obviously, it's obviously working for you. But I think the key element for me is always explain what this is, because if you get it wrong in their head as well, then they can switch off here. And I think you're absolutely right. And I think it's really important to make sure that even though the data might not align to what they want, that is the subjective part. And if I always say, look, if our values don't align, don't worry. That's not the end of the world. So if I'm £100,000 lighter than what you want, it isn't the end of the world, because that is the subjective part. Or if I'm over what you thought it was worth, great. But it's how we're going to market that property and how we're going to expose it to the market. And my ability, once we've got people through the door, to negotiate the best possible price. Don't pick your agent on the value of your home. Pick your agent on the rapport you've built with them, because I think that's important. You're going to be working with them for the next 6 months. You've got to like them. But also pick them on their ability to do the job. Look at the marketing. Look at the negotiation strategy. Understand what their results have been over the last however many months. Ask them for it. Like you were saying, Ian, in their pre-list pack and this competitor destroyer. Ask them these important questions. But don't just pick your agent because they think it's worth $500,000 more than it actually is worth. Look at the data. Look at the numbers.
Yeah, I've got lots to learn from you on data. As we know, we've been speaking about that recently. So there's definitely more we can add. But
can I just say one more thing on pre-listing? Sorry, Ian, you finished what you were going to say, but just before we jump on to the next part, you go on. You say what you need to say, and then I'll just say. I was just
going to say that I've forgotten what I was going to say. So after you.
Was it about your finger, your broken finger?
I have broken my finger, I think. My mum told me it might be a damaged tendon. It's a classic rugby injury. I wasn't playing rugby.
You've never played rugby in your life.
Was on prep is research who you're meeting as well. Again, it could be a bit stalkerish, but I always like to put the address that their home address at the higher end into company's house and see what comes up.
Yeah, I do that.
Look at them on Facebook, look at them on LinkedIn, and just try and gather as much information about that person prior to meeting them, so that you've got a good idea whether you're going to be meeting someone who's potentially left-brained. You've got report, because the high end, it's less about whether they like you, and it's more about whether you're the right fit for them. But it definitely helps if people like dealing with people that they like and people that are similar to them. And if you can if you know that somebody's into Porsche and Ferrari and X, Y, and Z, really love cars, it's something that you can drop into conversation at some point and you might have a bit of synergy with, and it could be the difference. But if you're going up against someone that's really good, that could be the difference maker. But just having an idea about who you're meeting and what they're about before you actually go there, just by using that wonderful world of social media.
Yeah, I think while you start talking about the prep again, there's a couple of things I didn't mention before. So I've counted up and we have 6 touch points before the val.
Yeah, brilliant.
So there's thank you for calling when they book the appointment. There's the email confirmation. There's the PLP hand delivered. There's me or Phil calling them. They get an automatic text the night before from our CRM system, which a lot of them reply to. They think you've actually sent it. And then we call on the morning of the appointment as well to confirm. Yeah. So it's 6 different touch points before you get there.
Brilliant.
I think, like I say, I'm massive on data. I mean, this is like my prep for evaluation today. Obviously, if you're not watching this, you can't see it, but it's got loads of stuff. I've got best price guides. I've got pound per square foot in the area that I've done detailed research on. I've got what are mortgage approvals doing at the moment. I've got what is the UK, the Halifax saying, what is the nationwide saying, because it's all trends. Just key market indices. And then, like I say, the house price data. But in one of my graphs here, it goes back to the time that when they bought it as well. This will work better for the house that I'm going to, in fairness. Like I say, if you're in a barn in the middle of a field and it's so unique, it's different. This particular one that I'm going to today is probably around 750. And it's nice to demonstrate, like on the graph here, like when they bought it. So the time when they bought it. So in this one, for example, it's May 2010. And then show them what the average house price was then in May 2010. And
that's brilliant.
And what the house price is now in 2023. Obviously, I know we're in 2024, but the latest data is 2023. And then I literally draw an arch from the start to the end and then put on the top of it, your house price has gone up 65% since then. So if you've done nothing, you've gained 65%. And now, obviously, it's never an exact science, but the key thing for me, regardless of what you choose to do and what you choose to present, what I can categorically say, every single valuation, I get feedback on it. Like I went to that one last week and I got there were 6 valuations, and I was the only one to present the way that I did. And I consistently get that feedback. People saying no one has ever gone into that much detail that you have. People generally, I think, go in based on rapport and hope to build a good relationship with someone. They'll show them a few best price guides. It might be a finger in the air in terms of valuation because they just want to get it on the market. I think data-driven valuations, putting the effort in at the start, it's been a game changer for me. And I do think that the client, particularly at the higher end, because I do think most are analytical, time poor people, they want to know that they're in the hands of someone who knows what they're doing and knows what the market's doing, got the finger on the pulse. It gets great feedback, and I will leave all that data with them then so that they can read through it. So what I'm saying to you is,
sorry to interrupt, is a lot of that data from Data Loft then that you take out?
Yeah, I like Data Loft. There's other good companies, but I'm a big fan of Data Loft. But what it does then is just leaves them. It just puts less emphasis on the valuation. Because how many times have you been to a valuation and you find yourself trying to justify your number? If you've had the reaction, maybe you'll say, well, it looks like the market's telling me that the property's worth around 800,000. They say, the last agent in said it was 850. And then you're kind of into an argument then about the valuation. You're trying to justify your valuation, whereas it's the key words that I always use is the market's telling me that your house is worth this. Not David Warburton is telling you that the house is worth $1 million. The data tells me that your house is worth £1 million.
Yeah.
But that's the subjective part. And the good thing as well is you can ask them, say, so how do you feel about that? What were you thinking before you invited me out today? And they might go, we were thinking more like 1.2. And then you might just say, right, okay, well, let's have a look at what you've got, what you've done since you bought it and all that sort of stuff. Because that's the fun part. That's the subjective part. Let's see if we can get you 1.2. It might smash the record for the area, but is it beyond the realms of possibility? The other good thing as well is you might not want it.
Yeah.
I only want to work with people where I think I can sell it, because I don't want to waste 6 months of my life and pay a lot of money out up front on upfront marketing to then not have a chance to sell it. So if we're miles apart on valuation, then it's probably one of those that you have to nurture and just walk away from. But yeah, data is big for me. So if you're not doing in-depth analysis before you go into valuations, I'd highly recommend it. I think if anybody out there listening is struggling with conversion or anything like that, or are constantly getting pushback on fees, it's a game. It just shows you that you're an authority in the area, and they're paying for experience and knowledge, and you'll get better fees and you'll get a better conversion rate.
Just conscious that we're getting to the 50-minute mark now, and we've just talked about prep. We need to talk about actually on the appointment as well. We kind of touched on that with what you just said then. So we talk about, say you're now in the house. So you're about to knock on the door. Well, what does that look like? Because one of the things I just want to say, and again, we don't want to spend too long on it, but actually when you come to the appointment, that when you turn up, and so for example, I always like to knock on the door about 30 seconds before it hits the time, if that makes sense. And again, if I'm ever late, if I know I'm going to be late, even if it's by a minute or 30 seconds,
always ring him.
I always ring.
I do.
Always ring.
That. Oh, there was no need to call, love. It's okay. They always say.
Exactly, but it's there,
Absolutely.
And the thing is, it's another touch point, and it's setting the standard for the relationship moving forward.
I used to think a while ago that I almost wonder if you're better being late and ringing to let them know you're going to be late.
Yeah.
You are. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And I bet the majority of people listening to this are late.
Yeah.
Valuers are late.
We're all estate agents, so it's like mental, isn't it? You know,
and the speakers don't work every week either. What?
An inside joke.
All right. So then, knocking on the door. What's the first thing you do? So the door opens. What's the first thing you do?
Shake the hand. Normally they know who you are. I find. Oh, hi.
You hope.
You hope. Yeah. Shake the hand. Say hello. I judge what floor covering there is about taking my shoes off. If it's like a stone flagged farmhouse, I don't say anything.
Yeah.
If it's like white carpet and super fluffy immaculateness, then I just take my boots off.
I always have to take my shoes off. And if it is a farmhouse where it's freezing cold, I regret it sometimes.
Yeah, a lot. I tend to find now, with a lot of them, if they've got horses and dogs, they don't take the shoes off. So you
also, guys, just something that's really just crept into my head then is prepping. Just get touches on prep. And while we're talking about footwear, I always keep a pair of wellies in my car.
Yeah,
just in case.
Me too.
And the amount that I won an instruction once because I actually had a pair of wellies in my car, and the other two agents that turned up didn't have wellies in their car.
Yeah.
And goes,
While we're talking about footwear, I just wear boots like Doc Martin brown leather boots without laces. So you can take them off, you can put them on and off dead easily in the hallway, and you can wear them walking across a field unless it's really bad. So I find that for a lot of properties we sell, it works whether you're in a nice house or whether you're in a rural place. But going back to what you said, I'll shake the hand. I always want to try and control. I learned this from Perry. I always want to try and control the meeting myself. I want to be in control of it. So if you leave it to them, they'll say, "This is the hallway. This is the lounge." So I always say, "Is it okay if we sit down first of all, please?" And a little chat, and then. They tend to, sometimes it's at the table, normally it's at a sofa, and they offer you a coffee or a tea. I always take a drink if they offer a drink. It's very, very rare do I say no, because they like that. A lot of them, they like making you a nice cup of coffee or tea. So I always accept a drink. And then we sit down.
Ian, I think if you do, it's not much about you being thirsty. It's about putting them at ease as well. If they're sat there with a brew and you've got a brew, it's your body language, isn't it?
Or a cup of tea for people south of the border.
Yeah. Okay. It's a brew, mate. It's a brew.
It's a brew, mate.
I think it's a completely different topic, and we won't discuss it. But the psychology of that is that you're mirroring their movements, and I think making them more comfortable. But anyway, sorry, mate, go on.
Yeah, no, you're quite right. Yeah, so we're sitting and have a drink, and then that's when I'm taking notes. So I'm more interested in them than the house. I'm not interested in the house at all. And I always try and steer the conversation back to them rather than the house, because sometimes you can ask about their daughters, sons, dogs, whatever. And sometimes they'll say, "Yeah, this is that's little Jessica's room is up the front there, and we extended that." And then they sometimes go off on to talking about the house, and you've got to try and steer it back to talking about them. So obviously you build a rapport, aren't you? What they did for a job, what they do for a job, holidays, pets, kids, all that sort of stuff, family connections, school connections, trying to find out as much as you possibly can about them. And then sometimes you feel like things are getting a bit strained with certain clients, and you're trying a bit too hard. So you might ask to go for a tour around the house sooner than you would with other people. Where we all know the sort of clients where sometimes you sat there for an hour and a half, you haven't even talked about the house, and then at some point, you just judging it right, you ask if you can have a look around the house and the gardens and the grounds and stuff. So we do that with one of them. As I'm leaving the sofa, I try and put my marketing plan and folder and stuff on the dining table, so that when we come back in, it tells them psychologically that we want to be sitting here rather than the sofa. And then we have a look around the house, inside and out. And then as we're going round, I say, if you'd just like to give me a tour and tell me what you've done and stuff. And then, is it okay if I have another wander around by myself afterwards, just to get a feel for it? Is it okay if I take a couple of photographs? I always say jokingly, they're not going on Facebook. Don't worry, this is just for me to refer back to. And the aim of that is to try and get 2 or 3 really good photographs that I can use on my proposal. So a good shot of the front, good shot of, a few other nice bits and pieces that I can use in the proposal when I go back to them. And then we come and sit back down normally at the dining table. And that's when I go through the marketing plan. And then on a lot of them now, I'm trying to talk about the valuation on the meeting as well to try and convert on the meeting, which is going really well. Doing that in the last few weeks now. That's going really well. And that sort of generally rounds off the meeting that I do.
Yeah. I think it's probably similar to what we do as well. I mean, obviously, the three of us do a lot of the same things. And I think the key elements, just picking out what you said there to me, were you come in, you take control of the meeting first and foremost. That is the most important thing. It's not tour around the house. It's, right, do you mind if we sit down and learn a bit more about your circumstances and what it is that you're trying to achieve here, and then go through it. And that is literally all about just building rapport. So I always take my book with me, my pad, make loads of notes, and every time they mention something that I might want to refer back to, if it's the son's name, the daughter's name, what school they went to in the area, something like that, you write it down, and you can always refer back to that, particularly when you're doing maybe the follow-up report, things like that. So that part of it is just building rapport. And then I think you mentioned taking some photographs on your walk round eventually, which I always do. But I also, again, take my pad with me, and I like to make little notes. Like, if you go into a bedroom and they've got a signed photo of Cristiano Ronaldo up or something like that, and you just, why don't you like football? You're so weird. So if they've got a signed picture of Cristiano Ronaldo up or something like that, then you can do, that they're a United fan. Do you know, that sort of thing? You're just making little notes like that you can, again, build more rapport and move the conversation towards that kind of thing. If I get a United fan, it's great because I can talk about how crap we are at the moment and have been for the last 12 years. But we can also reminisce.
Gary Neville in their living room.
We can reminisce about the good times as well. So it's good stuff like that. But you don't want to build too much rapport sometimes. Sorry, just a quick story. I remember doing a valuation once, and I thought, this is an amazing valuation. Like you said, Ian, I'd been in there an hour and a half. We'd been chatting, and she had the same dog, and the dog was dead cute, playing with the dog, stroking it all through. We're talking more about dogs and stuff like that, and this lady's history. Now I left thinking that was great, Val. It was back in the day. This area manager said, "How'd it go?" I said, "Yeah, it's brilliant, great valuation. That's nailed on that." Anyway, about 2 days later, I was driving home, and it had a different board outside the house. I'm like, "Oh my god!" So I rang her, and I said, "Ethel, what's going on? What happened?" And she said, "Well, I really liked you, but they're on Rightmove and Zoopla." I went, "We're on Rightmove and Zoopla. What about?" And she said, "Well, you didn't tell me." And I said, "That's true. We've got the same dog, Ethel. Come on."
Yeah. We're nailed on. That was my target.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, so like you, Ian, build rapport, do the tour afterwards, and then sit back down, build a bit more rapport, reflect on that. And then I personally get into numbers and trying to educate them that it's not a valuation as such.
Yeah.
It's more about aligning our price and me talking to you about how I am the best person to sell the house. And then obviously we'd get on to what we do then, our proposition. JK, do you want to add anything else?
Yeah, anything I was going to add.
Mate, before you go, let me just say this, and you can jump in. I always say to them that the marketing price, we call it a marketing price, is a conversation between normally the three of us. So it's a conversation between the three of us before we go to market. This is not me sitting here telling you your house is worth X. It's just a conversation about where we all feel the right kind of level is based on the data we've got in front of us. And then
very good.
That leaves it open then, doesn't it? Because also a lot of them, they might not be putting it on the market for 6 months, so it probably changed anyway.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, this is today's price. Obviously, things could change, so get me back out if later on. Anything I was going to say is with the mid to high end, when you're doing brochures, it's nice to have and deliver the brochures on the valuation. So pop them on the table and tell people the stories about the other homes.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, and then people are they're looking through it, and they're all, like, without saying anything, they're not only are they listening to the story behind the house and the result that you got, but they're also looking at the quality of your photography, the quality of your marketing, like how you put it all together. And it's just a really powerful piece for the high end. And the thing is, I've got loads of brochures left from houses that I've sold. So what quite often I'll say, look, one of these is about £15 each to produce. But look, I really think if you're just meeting one person, and again, we could have talked about this on the prep. One of the things we've just started to do really, really well is making sure that both people are there on the appointment. Is it just you on the title deeds, or is there, a husband or wife or a partner? Is it just you on the title deeds, or is there more than one of you on there? And then saying, okay, and are you both going to be available for the meeting?
Yeah.
And making sure they're both there. Because if they're not, inevitably, there's quite a lot of the time where, one person will handle that part of the relationship, and leaving like a brochure or something behind. I know you leave your plan behind, Ian, but like even if you leave a brochure behind as well, it's a talking point when they come home and go, well, this is what he sold, and it's just a tangible piece of marketing.
Yep, agreed. I guess time is against us a little bit. I suppose whipping through the proposition. Obviously, we all do things pretty much the same, don't we? In terms of this goes right back to the very first podcast, so maybe you could relate back to that. But I think then we talk about, right, how are we going to do it for you, and why are we going to do this? And it's all about then, right, we do Twilight as a minimum, we do professional photography, amazing videography, all that sort of stuff. One thing I would just say about when you present your proposition back, I always relate it to their house. I don't know whether you guys do the same. What I mean by that is, so when I've done the tour around, and I've taken notes about certain rooms, if it's got a great view, things like that, I always say to them, so in my head as I'm walking around, I'm always thinking, who's your target market for this house, and how am I going to present it? And just as I'm walking through, I'm seeing, obviously, you've got these amazing views. So I 100% would want to be getting to those views straight away. So, we'll obviously get the drone up, and I'm not literally saying what I'm going to do, but just throwing in little nuggets to show that I've been thinking about this as I've been going through the house.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that the photographs that I take as I'm doing the walk around by myself quite often are better than other agents' marketing, and I've done it on my iPhone. I always take them on my iPhone, and I quite enjoy taking a photograph of a house. So it's a pleasure for me rather than anything else. So half the time, but I'll take a photograph and then edit it on your iPhone. Dead easy to do. Put a bit of, you can blue it up, can't you? And I mean, even I'm a complete novice with that, and I can make it look good. And then use those in your proposal. And then in the proposal, I also put example videos of ones that we've sold.
Yes.
I get those in the proposal and example marketing, because I know that most agents are not doing that. So it just really makes you stand out.
And I think just talking about the key elements of your proposition, one of which for us I know is like home styling, home staging, home styling. We go as far as full home staging. I don't know what guys out there are doing, but like we had an empty property that we've just taken on Monday. And again, when you're at the higher end of the market, people understand and they've got money to be able to do this sort of stuff. But they'd moved out already, bought their next home. This property was completely empty. It's beautiful. And I just said to them, look, you need to, I would strongly recommend you do some home staging on this. We can get it all set up. So we had like 5 or 6 of the main rooms in the house properly staged, and it's just transformed the marketing for us. It looks incredible. But as a bare minimum, we obviously send our home stylist in and get all that done, do all the soft furnishings and things like that, give them advice on how to be ready for photography, because most people don't do that. They'll just take a point and shoot approach or send the photographer around, and then they won't move coats off the back of chairs and things like that. So I spend quite a bit
themselves.
Yeah. Well, I spend quite a bit of time talking about that, because I've said it in every pod, I think, but I always ram it home. You're no longer selling your home, Mr. Seller. You're selling your buyer's next home. And we need to present the lifestyle of your home.
That's a good line. I like that.
Yeah, to your potential buyer. It's so important. So it also helps if they do think like a little, well, I don't want you to come in and start messing around my house. It helps them understand why you're doing it. And another line is, look, we're selling your biggest tax-free asset. So it doesn't matter if it's a 2-bedroom terrace or a 7-bedroom barn conversion. The principles are the same. We've got to present it to your target market and present it the way that your target market will use it. So soft furnishings and things like that. So just basically just relating everything back to why you're doing it. There's no point just saying we do professional photography. We do a video. All videos are different. The videos that we choose to do are more cinematic. They're engaging. They grab your attention in the first 10 seconds. Why are we doing that? Where is it going to go? How is it going to help you sell your hot property quickly? So it's not just we do. It's more, this is what we do, and this is why we do it, the features and benefits of our proposition. And then, obviously, as we're done, questions, we're leaving. What do you guys leave? We'll skirt over this as best we can. I know we've gone on a little bit, but just for me, dead quickly, I leave all the data that I've prepared, let them have it. I have both a hard copy business card, but I also have a digital business card. I don't know whether you guys have these. I think they're quite cool because...
Yeah, I've got one, but to be honest, I'm not a fan.
It's great. I think it's really good. So, I mean, just for anybody who's listening, if they've not got one, you can just place it on top of the person's mobile phone and it transfers the data over to it. So it's got your name, your face, but you can also add in an example video and your website and things like that. So it's quite cool. But I do have, I also leave a business card, my hard copy business card anyway, and I'll just write on their business card. It's almost like an appointment card. So I just write on when I've agreed to call them.
Yeah.
So if I say to them, right, great, gone brilliant. When would you like me to call you back? Or rather, can I call you back, say, if it's Friday? Give you a call back on Monday. I'm not the type to pester. I'm not your typical salesman that's just going to ring you every day. I'm going to do a report for you within the next 24 hours. You'll get that. I'll drop you a message just to make sure you've received it. And then I'll call you on Monday. Would 1 o'clock be okay? And they might be, well, to make it 12, actually. I said, no problem. And I'll write on my business card, Monday at 12, give them my business card. And then I'll put that in my diary when I leave. And then the next thing, obviously, is you've got to make sure you make that call. It does make you stand out. So I just wrote down on my pad before, do what you say you're going to do. And you can't go far wrong.
Our podcast has almost turned into an audiobook.
I know. It's terrible, isn't it? I hope people have switched off.
Good value, though. I do think, I think if I was listening to this, I'd be listening all the way to the end because there's so much value packed in this.
Yeah.
It's so, I don't think we should... We've skirted over a few bits and pieces. We can't tell everyone everything because it'd be a 10-hour podcast. But and then post val.
Okay, post val for me. What do you mean? Are we like what they get, or what do you do with the follow-up?
So you've left. You left your business card. You said you're going to call. For us, it's we use better proposals.
Yeah.
Sending a proposal over to them. Giving them the marketing price. It's talking about the strategy and things we discussed. Always think it's important, as you guys said as well. If you've taken any photos of the property, use it on there. If you spoke to, they mentioned son or daughter, mention those in like the kind of intro, those kind of bits and pieces to kind of really personalize it. Great to meet you and Steve today, and your journey of moving to the coast with Katie and Martha. So they're just those. I don't know where that came from, but it was just one of those. Just to kind of make that more personal, so it doesn't look like a complete template. So there is things in there that are personal to them. And then just like you said, Dave, I always tend to try and get not permission to follow up, but kind of get that in their head that there's going to be a call happening at this time on this day. So they know they're going to be followed up. But then also, on the appointment, if I feel that like it's gone well, I'm not afraid to ask for the business, and I know that is a bone of contention for a lot of people. Are you happy with everything that's been said today?
Yeah.
And happy to go ahead and should we look at getting the photographer booked in?
Yeah, we are. The question we always ask is, however it's gone, we always say, do you think we're the right agent that you'd like to work with? I always say that at the end of every appointment. And it just sort of psychologically sets a tone with them because normally they say yes. Obviously, they don't all mean it.
Yeah, they don't
like to say no, do they?
No, they won't want to say no.
No,
hate your voice.
It sets a good tone when you ring them back. Because you ring them back and I say, "Oh, it was great on the meeting." And I put it in the proposal as well. I say it was great to hear that you think we're the right agent to work with.
Yeah,
because they've not said yes.
Yeah. Just on that, one question I do always ask is what's important to you when you're choosing your agent, what you're looking for. So that's one I do throw in.
Good. Well, that was a good episode, chaps.
Yeah. Anything else we need to cover off? We're an hour and 10 minutes into the Complete Agent audio book.
No, I think all good from my end. There's loads you can talk about, but hopefully we'll cover things more in the next ones.
Yeah. So next week we're going to be at a distance, aren't we? I'm going to be away. Ian, you're going to be away. So
we'll have to talk about how we're going to do that.
But we will commit and we will deliver another episode of the Complete Agent podcast. So if you do like what you hear, please don't forget to just forget us. Whatever. like, subscribe, share with a friend. Let everyone know that you're enjoying the Complete Agent podcast. And don't forget to rate us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify as well. And of course, if you like the sound of what we do, check out thecompleteagent.co.uk, join our private Facebook group, and enjoy. See you next week, lads.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks, everyone.